brings us on to item 2, which is the Finance Strategy, Capital Programme, Revenue Budget and Council Tax. And Councillor Wood, if you'd like to come forward. Is one of the ones you wanted to talk on? Okay. Right, well, I'm not going to delve into the report in enormous depth because, of course, we will have a full council meeting which will be looking at setting the budget in not too many days' time. But and of course, my introductory remarks earlier, I think, cover to a certain extent the pressures that we are under. But of course, we're moving to a different situation now where we have frozen our council tax now for a period of around 8 years. And that's very significant indeed, and effectively that means when you take inflation into account that there's probably 25% in which the council tax could have risen and did not in that time, which means that when you add all that money up, I think it comes to about £125. So the average home in Fareham, which is band C for council tax purposes, has actually saved an entire year's council tax as a result of those policies. But the government is now looking to shift the emphasis entirely onto council tax and is expecting councils now to put up council tax to the maximum, which is actually permissible within law and before referendum. All of the calculations which are now being done for the 2016-17 financial year and onwards are predicated on all councils doing precisely that. So in Fareham's case, that's predicated on increasing the council tax for a band D property by £5 per year. And the average property, as I say, being band C, so that's a penny a day that we are now expected to levy on our residents. So the average household paying a penny a day extra per year for Fareham Borough Council services. And of course the services we have fortunately been able to maintain, and we haven't had wholesale slashing and burning of services as many councils in the country have had to do. But what I thought would be useful before we came to actually agree anything that's before us this evening was to have a council tax consultation carried out across the borough, which has been done, and overall it's nearly 700 residents, which I think is a very good sample to go on, took part in that survey. And the questions that they were asked, and I'll just go through them because there were only 3, so it's quite simple. The first one was, do you think the council's approach to saving money, becoming more efficient and generating income is the right approach to take? And 89% of the people said yes, that was the right approach. We also asked which approach to balancing the books would you prefer Fareham to take, and the options we gave were raising council tax in line with inflation each year, and 11% thought that would be the right thing to do. Increasing council tax by more than inflation to provide even better services, just 8% thought that was a good idea. Asking people who use services such as car parking, sports pitches, etc. to pay more for them rather than raise the council tax, and 20% of people supported that. And striking a balance between increasing charges to service users and small increases in council tax, 61% favoured that. And then we asked the bold question, knowing that the writing was on the wall, do you think a £5 per year increase to Fareham's part of council tax is a reasonable option to take? And 85% of residents said yes, it was. So I think those figures are compelling. They sit in with what it is that we need to be doing in any event, and therefore the proposal that I will be making is that we do indeed increase the band D council tax by £5 a year, and that will then roll out, and the figures which are in this report will then be the appropriate figures. So you can see also within the report, of course, the finance strategy, the capital programme, we're going with that, and of course being able to build a leisure centre for £9 million in our capital programme is certainly no mean feat in the situation in which we've been for the years since 2008. And then that flows through into the revenue budget and council tax as I've described. So the proposals that are been making, and remember this is just a recommendation to the Council, are set out at the bottom of the page and on to page 62. So that's where we're at. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The government handed this Borough Council quite a heavy blow. They don't believe that we provide essential services for an efficient price, and have therefore chosen to cut the amount of money they give us by £1 million by 2018. As a result of this cutting funding, not only does the Council face a funding shortfall, resulting in an inflation-busting 3.7% council tax increase, but yet more cuts to services will follow, because our current reliance upon our reserves to plug the gap is a short-sighted measure. In the last year alone, you plan to use only £211,000 of our reserves, but actually use £1.5 million. This time you plan to take another £427 from reserves. How much will it actually be? Your plan just isn't practical. The people are being asked to pay more for less for a borough council which arguably is slowly going bust, like so many small councils around the country. Now, I will not support cuts to services, and I could not remain a member of a political party which treats local government with such contempt. You failed to convince the government that our services are essential. You failed to convince them that our services are provided efficiently. You've not only allowed these significant cuts from government to be foisted upon us, but you stood shoulder to shoulder with the Prime Minister and his Cabinet in total support of these measures. For if you did not believe that these cuts and these tax rises were correct, you would resign from your position and resign from your party. But no, just like in Hampshire County Council, I've not witnessed a single person putting our area before party, nor any member of the ruling group disobeying a party whip over this issue. Work that our officers do, that our staff do, and that we as borough councillors do to aid our local area. I question just how many of you can really say you're happy about the way your party's heading. When we see £20 billion being sent abroad to the EU or foreign aid, why on earth do we need to have £1 million cut from our budget by 2018? I think it's absolutely appalling, and I wouldn't be able to stand by it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Wood. Certainly some familiar strains there from what I think I heard from you last Friday. Of course, we could all resign. Where exactly would that get us if we all resigned? Will you come and sit here and run the council and set a budget which was different from the one we are setting? Your councillor can't apparently, according to the article in the news, even add up his dinner money and work out how much that was worth, over 10% increase in dinner money for people in Hampshire. Which services have we actually reduced? Which services are we actually proposing to reduce? None. We don't need to find any savings in this coming financial year, and therefore we're not proposing to be finding savings. As I've pointed out, the £1 million that we need to find is for the 2017-2018 year. And we pride ourselves, and in fact, fortunately, are held up as examples by our party nationally as a council that is able to deliver services at lower cost and still be just as good as they were. And that is what the Vanguard method has been all about. We've been making savings now for many years. Fortunately, we don't make savings on the things that most of our residents rely upon. So they still get their bins emptied, the grass cut, we still win our contests with Fareham in bloom and South East England in bloom. The borough is still kept clean and tidy. We look after our green spaces. So I don't think our residents, and certainly from the survey that I just reported to members, where our residents are supporting a £5 a year council tax increase, a penny a day, and who are we to argue with them? You know, I'm not seeing this appalling disaster, Councillor Wood, that you're portraying before us. But of course, if we go back to basics, why has the government got to make all these savings? Because basically the country was bust, and the country is still bust, and therefore these savings have to be made. Savings are falling on local government very, very heavily, and in terms of sending £20 billion a year to Europe, well, my hope would be in not too many weeks we won't be sending any money to Europe anymore, but we'll just have to see. Councillor Cartwright.
Thank you, Chairman. Once again, Councillor Wood, an astounding speech again. Never heard so much rubbish in my life before, I think is the best way of describing it. I mean, I do take sort of the exception to comments you're making about, you know, us as a council go bust in coming years, etc. What nonsense we're talking. And really, perhaps if you just did your homework rather than making these elegant speeches, that was probably not particularly an elegant speech, but if you did your homework and actually read what the council's actually done, you know, what services have we cut? None. And I think all the points the leader made earlier are very valid at the end of the day. And once again, you come here and give a very negative speech about, you know, how bad everything is, etc. Not once have you actually put down to say what you think you would do to resolve the problem. So it's very easy to criticise all the time. And for me, I think it's, you know, actually appalling for you to make these sort of comments. So going back to the more sort of positive things, you know, we did a consultation, as the leader said, which I think we would all agree was entirely the right way to go. We had 700 residents who actually took part. We've got a very clear mandate on it against, you know, a very difficult situation. So I'm very happy to support the recommendation shown here. And by the way, I won't be resigning either. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Miss Harper.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wood, for your interesting speech. I will, however, look forward to your budget proposals in a couple of weeks' time of how we can improve and what services we won't be cutting. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Mrs. Mabry.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't usually get personal, but if I'm requested to resign, then I feel that I should. Councillor Wood lives with his parents. He's very comfortably off. He's never had to budget, I don't think, in his life, so I don't think he can start making accusations against the officers and the councillors in this council. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Miss Bell.
Sorry, I might as well join in as well, mightn't I? I think if you look at the track record, and I'm going to keep my leisure hat on, with the amount of infrastructure we have carried out throughout the borough, purely from a leisure point of view. We take Porchester with its new community centre, it's all where the sports pitch is. We managed to put vast amounts of funding into community groups. We have a £9 million swimming pool being built over in the Western Wards. We've got rolling out play areas being reviewed. If you look at what we do as a council, we should be proud, and you should be speaking as a proud councillor of Fareham, not a disgruntled Fareham Borough councillor. You should be proud of what we do. Many of the surrounding borough and district councillors are very jealous of what we do and the way we budget over the last few years, and I'd like to hear you at once be proud of being a Fareham Borough councillor.